All right, let's jump right in and take a look at the stocks you're going to want to watch this week. We're going to break down some huge triggers. We're talking big defense deals, major index changes, and a tech sector that's, well, at a fascinating crossroads.
So what's really making waves in the market this week? Well, it's a mix of a few things. We've got some really powerful single stock stories, but also a huge theme playing out across an entire sector. Let's get into it. First up, let's head over to the defense sector. There's a massive new development that has put one company, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, you probably know them as HAL, right in the spotlight. And this is the number that's got everyone's attention. 2,232 crores. Just think about that for a second. That's the size of a brand new contract that's acting as a huge trigger for the company. So, let's break down what's actually behind this massive figure.
So here's the lowdown on the deal. It was just signed on February 12th, and it's with the Ministry of Defense. What's it for? Well, HAL is going to be supplying 8 of their Dornier 228 aircraft directly to the Indian Coastguard. I mean, this is a massive boost to their order book and, honestly, a huge vote of confidence from the government.
But a truly strong company isn't just about one big contract, right? For HAL, this fantastic news is landing on top of what's already a very, very strong financial foundation. The underlying health of the company is just as impressive, if not more so. Just take a look at this growth. In their recent December quarter results, their revenue shot up by over 10% compared to last year. But here's the real kicker. Their net profit? It jumped by almost 30%. So this isn't just a story about future orders, it's about what they're doing right now. Just really solid, robust performance.
And it's not just us noticing. Take a look at what the big brokerages are saying. They are incredibly positive. Nomura sees a potential upside of around 45%. Jefferies is even more bullish. They're looking at almost 50%. And CLSA is projecting a solid 30% jump. So when you put it all together, the new orders, the strong results, and this kind of outlook from the experts, you can absolutely see why HAL is one to keep on your radar.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. We're moving from defense over to the world of finance. Our next story is all about two names you definitely know, Aditya Birla Capital and L&T Finance. And they're making headlines for a totally different, but just as powerful, reason. So the big trigger here is something called MSCI inclusion. Basically, both of these companies have just been added to the MSCI Global Standard Index. Now you might be thinking, okay, so what? Why is that such a big deal? Well, it all comes down to who pays attention to these indexes.
It's actually pretty simple. Think of it like this. When a stock gets added to a big global index, all these huge passive funds and ETFs, the ones that are designed to just copy the index, well, they have to go out and buy that stock. It's like it's been added to their mandatory shopping list. And this can create this huge predictable wave of buying, which often leads to a big jump in both trading volume and, you guessed it, the stock price.
And the scale we're talking about here, it's just staggering. The estimated amount of money from these passive funds that's expected to flow into just these two stocks is around $495 million. That is a ton of money that now has to find its way into these two specific stocks.
So the key thing to remember here is the timing. You're going to want to circle February 27th on your calendar. That's the official rebalancing date. And because the market is smart and often tries to get ahead of things, you could see some serious momentum building up in the days leading right up to that date.
All right, for our last story today, let's zoom out a bit and look at an entire sector, information technology. We're talking about the giants here, TCS, Infosys, the whole crew. And right now, they're facing this really complex mix of intense pressure on one side and, believe it or not, potential opportunity on the other.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem. You've got these two powerful forces pushing against each other. On one hand, you've got the traditional outsourcing model. I mean, that's been the bedrock of Indian IT for decades. But on the other hand, you have the incredible disruptive force of AI. And AI is raising some really tough questions and creating a ton of uncertainty about that old reliable business model.
And look, this uncertainty is having a very real impact. The Nifty IT index, which is basically the scorecard for the biggest tech companies, has dropped to multi-month lows. So this isn't just some vague feeling of pressure. You can see it right there in the numbers. The market is valuing the entire sector less right now. And when the whole index is down like that, it means the total value, the market cap, of these huge companies has taken a serious hit. Investors are clearly worried, and that worry has translated into a real loss of value, at least on paper. But you know how it goes in the market. Whenever there's fear and pressure, some people see nothing but risk, but others start to sniff out an opportunity.
So that leads to the big question. Could all this weakness in the IT sector actually be a setup for traders?
If you're a trader, this kind of situation can be really interesting. For one, you can pretty much expect high volatility, which means the potential for some big, short-term price swings. And for anyone with a higher appetite for risk, these lower prices might start to look like pretty attractive entry points, hoping to catch a bounce or play some of those sharp moves.
Okay, so we've covered a lot: defense, finance, and IT. So what are the big takeaways you should be thinking about for the week ahead? Let's do a quick recap of the main drivers.
First, in defense, you've got HAL with a super clear story, strong orders backed by stellar results. Then, in finance, it's all about that massive wave of cash set to flow into Aditya Birla Capital and L&T Finance because of the index change. And finally, in IT, you have this much more complex picture where all this pressure is creating a ton of volatility, which could be a huge risk or a huge opportunity, depending on how you look at it.
And that really leaves us with one final question for you. We've looked at a story of pure strength, a story driven by fund flows, and a story defined by volatility. So, as you look at the market this week, where are you seeing the biggest opportunity? Something to think about.